I've been sitting with this one for a while now. Not out of fear, but because I've wanted to speak from a place of sincerity. I didn't want it to sound overly dramatic or rehearsed or like I was trying to convince anyone of anything. I just wanted it to feel real when I finally spoke about it. So part of the reason I'm doing these videos, this channel, is for my daughters. And one day, when I'm no longer here, I want them to have something they can return to. A voice that still reaches out to them. A reminder of who I was, what I believed, and why. But for those of you who are not my daughters, I've often been asked why I am the way I am, why I speak the way I do, why I see the world a bit differently. And this is where it starts. So today, I'm going to talk about something that I've rarely spoken about very loudly here. Something deeply personal. My journey in faith. And that's something that's been long, sometimes lonely. Growing up, I had a lot of questions. And very few people would be able to answer them with kindness and patience anyway. Still, the questions never left. So while I'll keep posting my usual videos every Monday, I've decided to begin sharing one or two a month, specifically on the subject of Christianity. And I'll post these on Thursdays. That's the plan anyway. And the best place to start, I think, is with the question, what exactly is the gospel of Jesus Christ? Maybe you've asked it. Maybe you've avoided it. Or maybe you've been handed an answer that never really felt like good news. Wherever you find yourself, I hope you hear this in a way that it's meant to be, without pressure, without performance, just truth. When you hear the word gospel, do you think of peace or pressure? And what would it mean if it could be the first one? I'm hoping to show you that today. The older I get, the more I find beauty in the simple things. The quiet morning breeze, the way the sunlight filters through the trees. The warmth in someone's voice when they say your name like it matters. Truth is like that too. It doesn't shout. It doesn't compete. It waits, like light through a curtain, soft but sure. The gospel of Jesus Christ, when rightly understood, carries that same quiet strength. It doesn't force itself on you, but when it lands, it changes everything. For generations, the message found in the gospel has been corrupted and misused, twisted into something harsh, co-opted for arguments, agendas, and even division. But if you peel back all of that noise, you find something ancient, something humble, something healing. That's what I want to share here. Not a religious brand, not a list of spiritual requirements, just the gospel as it was always meant to be, rooted in Scripture, not in tradition, centered in truth and not man-made systems. This won't be a list of do's and don'ts. It's not about becoming good enough or following steps. It's a story, one that began before any of us did, one that still continues. So I want to share it with reverence and hopefully a little tenderness and with clarity, because this isn't just a story about the past. It's a hope for the present. When you hear the word gospel, what emotions come up? Curiosity, peace, skepticism, or weariness? Could you just set those feelings aside for just a moment without assumption and just listen. The gospel, literally meaning good news, was written because we all needed it, not just individually, but as a shared human story. The earliest chapters of our existence are filled with wonder and sorrow, harmony and fracture. We were made for connection, made for love, made for something more than we often settle for. But early on, something broke. The scriptures say in Romans 5:12, "Therefore, just as sin came into the world through one man, and death through sin, and so death spread to all men because all sinned." Sin is more than bad choices. It's a separation, a soul sickness. The moment we turned our faces from God and said, we'll figure it out for ourselves. And in that decision, the world cracked. Suffering followed. So did fear and shame and death. But here's what makes this story unlike any other. While we were running, God was already coming. He didn't stay distant. He didn't demand that we earn our way back to him. He came to us. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, John 3:16. Not to shame us, not to punish us, but to rescue. Jesus walked into our brokenness, not to wave a finger, but to open his arms. He lived the way we couldn't, died the death that we should have, and rose again to make a way back. Romans 5:8 tells us, "But God shows his love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." The gospel was written so we wouldn't have to wonder if we're loved, so we could stop striving, so we could come home. It isn't just knowledge, it's an invitation. Have you ever felt like you needed to fix everything before you come to God? What if the invitation came before the fixing? Let's be clear. The gospel, it wasn't written for people who have it all figured out. It wasn't made for the polished or the perfect. It wasn't reserved for the scholar or the saint. It was written for people like me, people like you. It's for the tired, the doubting, the ones who carry quiet regrets. It's for those who have been hurt, even by the church, or disillusioned by religion. It's for those who have questions, and those who have stopped asking because they feel tired and they're disappointed. Jesus said in Mark 2:17, "Those who are well have no need of a physician, but those who are sick. I came not to call the righteous, but sinners." So the gospel is for the man drowning in work because he's scared of facing failures. The woman carrying old wounds that still sting when no one's around. The teenager wondering if they'll ever be good enough. The elderly soul who feels invisible in a world that's loud and fast. It's for those who sit in pews but feel unseen, and for those who have never stepped foot in church. Ephesians 2:8-9 says, "For by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not your own doing. It's the gift of God." And that word gift changes everything. You don't earn a gift. You receive it. Could it be that the gospel wasn't written for the person you pretend to be, but for the one you truly are? Christian had been walking for a long time. With each step, he clutched a worn leather pack with a folded map, a gift from a kind stranger long ago. The map showed a narrow path to the city of rest. The place people often spoke in half-remembered dreams and quiet longing. One day, a storm rolled in, wind howled, rain slashed. In the chaos, Christian ran beneath a broken archway for shelter. His lantern started to flicker, then tipped. Flame caught the edge of the map, and then water soaked it through. By the time he noticed, it was ruined. Ink blurred, corners singed. He stared at the wet, useless paper. His hopes sank. A voice behind him said, "You look lost." Christian turned to see an old man by the fire, warming his hands up. The man smiled and motioned for him to sit. "I had a map," Christian said. "Now it's gone." The man's eyes softened. The map was never the way. It only pointed to it. "I don't know where I am anymore," said Christian. "That's all right," said the old man. "The way knows where you are." He pointed beyond the woods. "Walk east until the ground begins to rise. There, you'll find the path again." "But how do you know?" Christian asked. The man looked into the fire. "Because I've walked it myself." And so Christian walked, not with certainty, but just with trust, with faith. Have you ever clung so tightly to your idea of the way forward that you missed the quiet voice reminding you that you're not on the path alone? When Christian lost his map, it felt like the end. But in truth, it just marked a new beginning. Because the journey of faith isn't about perfect direction. It's about learning to trust the one who walks with you. Sometimes we can reduce the gospel to a formula. We think if we behave well, believe correctly, and perform consistently, then God will draw near. But Christian story is meant to remind us that even when everything falls apart, even when the ink of our understanding runs or the flame of our confidence goes out, that God will leave. Romans 10:9 gives it to us plainly. If you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. It doesn't say if you never mess up. It doesn't say if you always get it right. It just says believe, confess, trust. That's what grace looks like. It doesn't wait for us to be ready. It finds us in the storm, sits with us by the fire, and points us back to the path. Christian didn't find the way because he earned it. He found it because someone who had already walked it met him in his moment of need. And that's what we all need. People who remind us that we're not too far gone, that God isn't waiting for us to have it all together, that the path still exists, even when the map is gone. If you felt like your faith is cracked or your direction lost, maybe this is the moment to pause, to breathe, to listen again to the voice that says, "Walk east." I've been there. I'll walk with you. What if grace isn't found in having it all together, but in being willing to just sit by the fire and admit your need and ask for help? Sometimes we tend to think the gospel is only for the big moments, the hospital bed, the funeral, the breaking points in life. But it was meant for the ordinary too. Tuesday mornings when we're stuck in traffic, or folding laundry, when we're in long checkout lines or quiet walks around the block. Even when the news just is too heavy to bear, when your chest feels tight, when you're not sure what you're doing anymore. The gospel doesn't erase hardship, but it does redefine it. It anchors us. 2 Corinthians 4:16-17 reminds us, though our outer self is wasting away, our inner self is being renewed day by day. For this light momentary affliction is preparing for us an eternal weight of glory beyond all comprehension. The pain you feel right now is not meaningless. The waiting, the worry, the loneliness. The gospel reminds us that there's more going on than what we can see. That even in suffering, something sacred is being formed in us. And it frees us from the need to prove ourselves, to constantly earn worth or strive to be accepted. Instead, we start to form a place of belovedness. We move, not to gain love, but because we've already been given it. Slowly, things start to shift. We become more gracious, more forgiving. Not because we've mastered anything, but because we've been forgiven. We soften. We notice others more. We stop trying so hard to win and begin to focus more on loving. It's not a spiritual life hack. It's a slow reshaping of the heart. Where do you need that kind of hope today? Not someday far off, but in the very normal, very real part of your life you're living right now. Christian's map burning could have been the end of his journey, but it wasn't. It was a hinge moment, a quiet turning point, because Christian learned something he hadn't understood before. His trust had never really been in the path itself. It was in the one who had made it. In our lives, we draw up our own maps. We make plans, craft expectations, set goals. And sometimes they do fall apart. The job just doesn't work out. The relationship ends. The answers don't always come. And in those moments, we panic. We think we've failed, that it's over. But the gospel reminds us you are not lost to the one who made you. That's what makes this good news. It's not built on your ability to hold everything together. It's built on God's promise that when you fall apart, He holds you. Christian's journey became more meaningful, not less, when he had to walk without certainty. He learned to trust not the signs, but the shepherd. That's faith. Not having every answer, but knowing who to follow. Sometimes others will come alongside you. Sometimes you'll be that person for someone else. That's how this works. The gospel finds us in the dark and asks us to carry a light for others still looking. When your map burns, what would it look like to sit, wait, and trust that the way still knows your name? And just to follow your next step. The gospel of Jesus Christ isn't about becoming religious. It's about coming home. It's the story of a God who came near, a love that chose scars a truth stronger than shame, a rescue mission for people who didn't even know they were lost. It's not a rule book. It's not a performance. It's about redemption through Jesus. And he invites you not to earn something, but to receive it. You are not forgotten. You are not too broken. You are not too late. You are invited. No pressure. No conditions. What would it look like if you just whispered yes to that invitation? While it may not always be who we are, it can be about who we want to be. Thank you for watching.